I heard my daughter's voice through the phone. Cold. Calculated. He's a burden. It's time for a nursing home. Something inside me cracked right then. Not quietly, like glass under a boot. I didn't hang up. I just sat there in Ellen's old recliner, staring at her photo on the mantel, while my daughter and her husband spoke through the receiver she thought was already dead. Jeremy's voice was steady, businesslike. The house is worth almost $1 million now. We sell it, put him somewhere cheap, and we'll finally buy that place in Boulder. My daughter laughed. Laughed. He doesn't suspect a thing. He was so grateful just to hear from me. We need to strike while he still trusts us. The phone slipped from my hand, clattering against the floorboards I had nailed down with Ellen 23 years ago. Every sound in the house went sharp. The tick of the clock, the faint hum of the fridge, even my own breath. I wasn't dead yet, and I wasn't nearly as helpless as they believed. Dad, maybe we should talk about someone checking in on you more often. That was Caitlin's sweet voice earlier that evening. I don't need a babysitter, I told her. I managed just fine. You forgot the stove yesterday. I smelled it before anything burned. Silence on her end. The same silence I now knew hid calculation, not care. The house felt different after the call. Heavier, like it had heard the betrayal itself. I stood, legs trembling but steady enough, and walked to the kitchen drawer where Ellen always kept bills and receipts. My fingers found the folder before I even thought about it. Tuition, $48,000. Wedding, $32,000. Car loan, co-signed. Job search, covered. Page after page of sacrifices, my sacrifices. Each one a nail I had driven into their future with my bare hands. And now they were planning my exile, counting my money, buying their mountain view with my grave. Ellen's voice came back to me, soft, from decades ago. Don't give her so much she forgets to be grateful. I should have listened. I walked upstairs. My bedroom door creaked the way it always did. Inside, Ellen's perfume still clung faintly to her clothes. Her glasses weighted by the lamp she'd last touched. The jewelry box she loved sat closed, dust gathering in the grooves. On the nightstand, our deed. Roy and Ellen Hayes. 1999, no liens. No other names. Just mine now. I held that paper like a weapon. For the first time since she died, I felt Ellen with me. Not as a memory, but as a presence. I went back down, poured a glass of water, and stared out at the dark garden. Crickets sang. The house breathed. And I made a decision. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd thank them while they erased me. But tomorrow, their world would start to crack. I picked up my phone from the floor. Caitlin's call had ended. The screen glowed in my hand like a silent dare. I whispered to the empty room, to Ellen's photo watching me from the mantel. They'll find out soon enough. The glass trembled against the counter as I set it down. Because when they came back from Phoenix, smiling with their Boulder dream, their keys would not fit the lock. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Each sound was a reminder, seconds slipping by, every one of them mine, not theirs to steal. At 5:17, I got up. Coffee hissed on the stove. The bitter smell filled the kitchen, but I barely tasted it. My mind wasn't on coffee. It was on strategy. First move, confirm what they didn't know. They thought the house was theirs for the taking. They thought all I had was this property. They were wrong. By 8, I was in my truck, deed tucked into my jacket pocket. The morning air bit at my face, crisp with that dry Denver chill. I drove to a brick building on Colfax Avenue, the office of Todd Fisher, real estate attorney. Ellen had insisted we meet him after her diagnosis. Someday you'll need a man like him, she'd said. I'd kept his card in my desk for 3 years. Todd looked up when I walked in, his gray temples catching the light. His handshake was firm, steady. Mr. Hayes, haven't seen you since Ellen passed. How are you holding up? I sat, leaned forward, put the deed on his desk. I overheard something. My daughter and her husband are planning to put me in a home. They think they can sell my house. Todd's face didn't move much, but his eyes sharpened. Can they? Legally? I asked. No, he said flatly. Not unless you sign it away. The deed's in your name alone. This house is yours. Period. Relief washed through me, cold at first, then hot. I clenched my fists. So if I wanted to sell it myself? You could. Today, if you wanted. The market's strong. Cash buyers, investors. 1 week, maybe less. I nodded. Good. That's what we'll do. He raised an eyebrow. That quick. This is a big step. They think I'm weak. Confused. Helpless. I want them to come home to a reality they never imagined. For the first time, Todd let out a small laugh, dry as paper. Then let's draw up the paperwork. That afternoon, I walked through my house like a stranger. Every room carried memories. Ellen's laugh echoing in the kitchen, Caitlin's teenage music blasting upstairs, Jeremy bragging at the last barbecue. All of it stained now. But I wasn't just saying goodbye. I was taking inventory. Granite countertops I'd installed myself. Bay window Ellen loved. Hardwood floors laid with my own hands. All of it built by me. Not them. When I reached Caitlin's old room, I stopped. The walls were still yellow. Her photos still taped crookedly to the mirror. She hadn't cared enough to take them. Just like she didn't care enough to keep me out of the nursing home. I whispered to the empty room. You'll remember this house soon enough. But from the outside, the sale moved faster than I expected. By the third day, Todd called. Roy, we have a cash buyer. $890,000. No inspections. They'll close immediately. Do it, I said. When the papers were signed, I felt nothing at first. Just silence. Like the house itself was holding its breath. Then something inside me loosened. Not peace. Power. I packed lightly. Just clothes, tools, Ellen's photo, and the folded deed now stamped sold. The rest? Let them mourn it. On Friday evening, I parked across the street and waited. My daughter's car rolled up, headlights slicing the dusk. Jeremy climbed out first, phone to his ear, talking about investors, grinning. Caitlin followed, bags in her hands. They looked happy, confident. Then they reached the door. Jeremy slid the key in, twisted, stopped. He frowned, tried again. The lock didn't budge. Caitlin's voice was sharp. Jeremy? What's wrong? The damn key, he rattled it hard. Nothing. She dropped the bags. Let me try. Her key jammed uselessly. Then she saw it. The envelope taped to the door. My handwriting on the front. Caitlin. Her face drained as she tore it open. I could see her lips moving as she read. Jeremy leaned over her shoulder, his jaw tightening with every line. And then it came, the scream. Raw, guttural, echoing across the street. I didn't need to hear the words. I knew exactly what note they were reading. The house is no longer yours to covet. It was never yours at all. You called me a burden. You plotted behind my back. Consider this my retirement gift, to myself. Don't look for me. Don't call. And don't ever think you'll touch a dime of what I built. Jeremy slammed his fist against the door. Caitlin dropped the paper, clutching her hair, sobbing. From where I sat in the shadows, I felt no pity, only clarity. Because I also knew one thing. They wouldn't let this go. And that was exactly what I wanted. That night, I checked into a modest motel off I-70, neon lights buzzing outside my window. As I lay on the stiff mattress, Ellen's photo on the nightstand, I whispered, they'll come after me now, but I'm ready. And as if to answer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. You'll regret this, Dad. We'll find you. I smiled in the dark. The game had finally started. The motel room smelled of bleach and cigarette smoke. I sat at the small desk, the glow of the lamp catching Ellen's picture. Her eyes seemed to ask me one thing. What now? The message from Caitlin still glared on my phone. You'll regret this, Dad. We'll find you. Regret? No. Anticipation. That's what I felt. At sunrise, I checked out, cash only. The clerk barely looked up as I left. I didn't want paper trails. Not yet. I drove 2 towns over and rented a small storage unit. The kind of place no one notices, wedged between a pawn shop and a tire warehouse. Inside, I stacked the essentials. Ellen's photo, the boxes I'd grabbed from the house before closing, my tools, a few old ledgers. Among them was the folder I hadn't opened in years, bank statements, insurance policies, even copies of checks I'd written for Caitlin's wedding. Proof of every sacrifice. I flipped through them slowly, my anger sharpening with each page. These weren't just memories. These were weapons. By the third day, the phone call started. First Caitlin. Dad, please. We can work this out. You don't know what you're doing. I let the voicemail record her fake sweetness, then replayed it, smiling. An hour later, Jeremy, you're making a fool of yourself. Selling the house was illegal. We'll sue. I saved that too. Evidence of their greed dripping from every word. That night, a final message. Caitlin again, but no sweetness left. You think this is over? You embarrassed us. You humiliated Jeremy in front of his clients. People are talking. You can't hide forever. Hide. I wasn't hiding. I was baiting. The next move was mine. I called Todd Fisher, the attorney. Todd, do me a favor. Draft a letter. Leave it open-ended, but make it clear my estate has been reassigned. No details, just a warning shot. You're escalating things, he said. Good, I replied. 2 days later, I pulled into the diner off Route 6, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes like burnt rubber. I sat by the window, waiting. At 1:10, Jeremy walked in. He spotted me instantly, smiled that tight, fake smile of his, sat down across from me without asking. Roy, he said smoothly, like we were old friends. Let's be reasonable. Reasonable, I echoed. Like plotting to sell my house while I'm still breathing? His jaw twitched. You misheard. Caitlin was just worried. That's what families do. We take care of each other. I leaned forward, let him see the steel in my eyes. Family doesn't calculate dollar signs over the man who raised them. He lowered his voice. Look, we can't undo the sale, but we can adjust. Caitlin feels guilty. She wants to make amends. Transfer some of that money back to you. Some? I asked, voice flat. Jeremy forced a chuckle. You don't need all of it. You're not exactly planning ski trips or buying boats at your age. The words hit me like a hammer. My hands clenched under the table. He thought I was finished. Useless. Already half buried. I leaned back, smiled coldly. Funny thing, Jeremy. I recorded that phone call you and Caitlin had. Every word. His face drained. You wouldn't. I stood, dropped a 10 on the table for coffee I hadn't touched. Don't worry. I'm not showing anyone yet. His eyes followed me all the way to the door, dark with fear. That night, I set up my old recorder by the motel window. If they came for me, I wanted evidence. The hum of traffic filled the background as I lay awake. At 2:43, headlights swept across the room. A car slowed, then stopped. Shadows moved under the thin motel curtains. 2 figures. Voices, muffled but urgent. One of them sounded like Caitlin. I held my breath, waiting for a knock. None came. Just the sound of a car door slamming, an engine revving, tires peeling out into the night. They knew where I was now. Morning brought the next strike. I walked to my truck and found it, a note tucked under the wiper, scrawled in rushed handwriting. You can't run forever, old man. My jaw tightened. They wanted to scare me, corner me. Instead, I felt calmer than I had in weeks. I slipped the note into my pocket, started the engine, and whispered into the roar of the highway. You just made your first mistake. That afternoon, I drove to Denver's local paper, walked straight into the office, the air thick with ink and old coffee. Found a young reporter, the type hungry for a story that could crack open family betrayal. My name's Roy Hayes, I told him. I've got something you'll want to hear. About a daughter, her husband, and nearly $1 million they tried to steal. His eyes lit up. He grabbed a notepad. Tell me everything. And as I laid out the first threads of the trap, I knew one thing for certain. Caitlin and Jeremy thought they'd left me with nothing. But I had the one thing they couldn't buy. The truth. That evening, back at the motel, I turned on the recorder again. The room hummed with silence, heavy and electric. And then my phone lit up. Unknown number. I answered. Jeremy's voice hissed through the line. You talk to anyone else, Roy, and I swear, you won't like what happens next. The call went dead. I stared at the phone, heart steady, jaw tight. Finally, I whispered into the empty room. Then let's see what happens. The Denver Post newsroom smelled like dust and printer ink. The young reporter, Evan, sat across from me, his notepad open, pen scratching. His eyes were bright, almost too eager. You're saying your daughter and her husband plotted to sell your home while you were still living in it? That's exactly what I'm saying, I replied. And I've got proof. Recordings. Documents. Their own words. I slid the folder across the desk. Bank statements. Photocopies. The kind of paper trail a hungry journalist dreams about. Evan flipped through, whistling low. This is heavy, Mr. Hayes. If I run this, your family will be finished. They're the ones who chose this war, I said flatly. I'm just giving you the truth. That night, I drove back to the motel, headlights cutting through a cold drizzle. My chest felt tight, not from fear, but from anticipation. The first domino had fallen, but the motel door told me the next move was theirs. The lock had been forced. The frame splintered. Inside, the room was chaos. Mattress slashed. Drawers overturned. The recorder smashed on the floor, wires spilling out like guts. On the cracked mirror above the sink, someone had written with a red marker. Stop. I stood there, rain dripping off my jacket, staring at that one word. Not fear. Not panic. Just anger, sharp and clean. They thought they could silence me. Break me. They didn't know me at all. I moved fast. Gathered what was left of my belongings, shoved them in a duffel. Checked the glove box of my truck, Ellen's photo, safe. The envelope with the deed copy, safe. But one thing gnawed at me. The reporter. If they knew where I was staying, they might know who I'd talked to. I dialed Evan. He answered on the second ring. Mr. Hayes, listen to me. If anyone contacts you, anyone, asking about me or these documents, you hang up. You hear me? There was a pause. They already did. My grip on the phone tightened. Who? A man. Said he was family. Smooth voice. Asked if I'd seen you today. I didn't tell him anything, I swear. I closed my eyes, jaw clenching. Jeremy. Good, I said. You keep it that way. And Evan? Yes. Make copies. Hide them. If anything happens to me, you publish. By the next morning, I was 3 towns away. A cheap cabin rental by a lake, silent except for the wind moving through the pines. I sat on the porch, coffee steaming, staring at the ripples in the water. I wasn't hiding. I was recalibrating. Because if they wanted war, I'd give it to them loud. I called Todd, the attorney. They trashed my room. Left a message. Do you want me to contact the police? He asked. Not yet. Police work on evidence. I work on proof. There was silence on his end, then a low sigh. You've got something planned, don't you? Yeah, I said. And it starts with money. 2 days later, I walked into First Federal Bank, folder under my arm. The clerk was polite, all smiles. She didn't know the storm she was part of. I'd like to update my beneficiaries, I told her. She nodded, took the paperwork. Your daughter? I looked her dead in the eye. Not anymore. By the time I left, every cent I had was redirected. Trust accounts in my name only, no access for Caitlin or Jeremy. Their imagined inheritance, gone with a signature. That evening, as the sun set over the lake, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. Silence for 3 seconds. Then Caitlin's voice, trembling. Dad, what are you doing? What you forced me to, I said. You don't understand. Jeremy, he's under pressure, deals, clients. Stop making excuses for him. And for yourself. Her tone cracked. We never meant to hurt you. We thought. That I was disposable. My voice came out sharp, colder than the lake air. That you could erase me and cash out? Tears filled her silence. But then, faintly, I heard Jeremy's voice in the background. Low, angry, whispering, hang up. The line went dead. I sat there a long time, the night closing in. Stars blinked above the water. They were unraveling, cracks forming. And tomorrow, I would split them wide open. At dawn, I packed my bag, slipped Ellen's photo into my jacket, drove back toward the city. But as I pulled into the outskirts, I saw it. A black SUV trailing in my mirror. Every turn I took, it followed. I tightened my grip on the wheel, a grim smile curling. They weren't waiting anymore. They were coming. The black SUV followed me for 20 miles. Not too close. Not too far. Just enough to let me know I was being hunted. I didn't speed. Didn't swerve. I kept my hands steady on the wheel, Ellen's photo glinting from the dash. My pulse was calm, slower than theirs would be. Because the truth was simple, I'd lived through harder things than a tail job. When I turned off onto County Road 12, they turned too. That's when I smiled. Because I hadn't picked that road by accident. The gravel stretch wound through abandoned farm lots. No traffic, no houses, no curious eyes. Just dirt, weeds, and rusting silos leaning like old soldiers. Perfect. I slowed, pulled onto a turnout beside a broken fence, killed the engine. Waited. The SUV rolled up behind me, headlights dimmed. Two men stepped out. Not Caitlin. Not Jeremy. Hired help. Suits that didn't fit right, shoulders stiff. One of them called out, "Mr. Hayes? We need a word." I opened my door, stepped out, boots crunching on gravel. Then talk. The taller one glanced at his partner, then back at me. Jeremy wants this resolved peacefully. He says return what's his, and no one gets hurt. What's his? I laughed, sharp and hard. That house was never his. That money never his. Everything I bled for mine. And you can tell him this. The only thing he owns now is his shame. The man's jaw clenched. He reached into his coat. Not for a gun, too sloppy, but for a folded paper. He tossed it toward me. I picked it up. Legal letterhead. A lawsuit. Claiming elderly incompetence. Demanding the house sale be voided. Assets frozen. I let the paper flutter to the dirt. Stepped on it with my boot. Tell him I'm not incompetent. I'm awake. The shorter one muttered. He warned you'd be stubborn. I leaned closer, voice low as gravel. And I warned him once years ago. I told him never mistake patience for weakness. I turned, got back in my truck. Left them standing in the dust. Back at the lake cabin, I poured a glass of water and spread my notebook. Drew 2 columns. What they want. Money, control, silence. What I have. Proof, leverage, patience. The balance was tilting, but not in their favor. That night, I made my boldest move yet. I dialed Evan, the reporter. Run the teaser, I told him. You sure? He asked. Yes. Print the headline. Just enough to rattle them. No names yet. Just a hint. The next morning, the Denver Post carried a short piece on page 3. Local man claims family betrayal over nearly $1 million home sale. Evidence pending. No names. No photos. Just the spark of a fire. But Jeremy's circle read the news. And panic spreads faster than truth. By noon, Caitlin called again. This time her voice was shrill, desperate. Dad, why are you doing this? Do you want to destroy us? You destroyed yourself the moment you plotted against me. You don't understand. She cried. Jeremy has investors, deals worth millions. They're watching everything. If they think he's unstable, then maybe they'll finally see him for what he is. I snapped. Silence. Then a sob. Not guilt, fear. I almost pitied her. Almost. That evening, as the sun bled red across the lake, headlights swept up the dirt road. A car stopped outside. I grabbed the wrench from my bag, stood by the door. A knock. Not hard, not timid. Just steady. I opened it, and there she was. Caitlin. Alone. Face pale, hair unkempt, eyes rimmed red. Dad, she whispered. Please. Let me in. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed trap. But I stepped aside. She slipped inside, hands trembling. Jeremy doesn't know I came. He's losing it, Dad. He smashed a lamp last night. He said if you don't stop, he'll. She broke off, choking on the words. I studied her face. Was it real fear or practice theater? Hard to tell. Why are you here, Caitlin? I asked. She swallowed hard. Because I made a mistake. I thought we could handle you. Control you. But you're not the weak man we thought. And Jeremy, he's dangerous when cornered. I narrowed my eyes. So now you come crawling back? Tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't want to lose everything. Please, Dad. Stop the reporter. Stop this before someone really gets hurt. Her voice cracked on that last word, and for a moment, I almost believed her. Almost. I poured her a glass of water, set it on the table. She gripped it like a lifeline. Then I leaned in close, my words cutting sharp. Caitlin, you chose him over me long ago. And now you want me to save you from the monster you helped build? Her face crumpled. Dad. But before she could finish, headlights flashed again outside. A second car pulling up fast. I stood, wrench in hand, blood steady in my ears. Jeremy, I muttered. Caitlin's eyes went wide with terror. And in that moment, I knew the storm had arrived. Jeremy's car door slammed shut with the force of a verdict. I watched his shadow cut across the porch, tall, fast, full of rage. Caitlin gripped my arm. Dad, don't, he's not himself. I peeled her hand away, stepped forward, wrench heavy in my fist. Then he'll meet me as I am. The knock rattled the cabin door. Not polite, not patient, a demand. Roy, open up. Jeremy's voice thundered. You think you can humiliate me? Sell the house out from under us? Talk to reporters? You're finished. I pulled the door wide. The cold night air rushed in. Jeremy stood there in his expensive jacket, eyes wild, jaw clenched like stone. Finished, I said, calm as ice. No, Jeremy. You are. He shoved past me, storming into the cabin. Caitlin backed away, pressing herself to the wall. His eyes darted around, landing on the open folder on the table. Documents, copies, proof. What the hell is this? He spat. Truth, I said. Jeremy's laugh was sharp, bitter. You think some yellow paper reporter cares about your whining? You think anyone will side with a senile old man over me? I built something, Roy. I have investors, partners. You're a relic. I tightened my grip on the wrench. I built everything you stand on. Every dollar you ever touched started with my sweat. His face twisted. He slammed the folder shut, scattering papers to the floor. I'll burn this. Burn everything. You'll have nothing. But then Caitlin spoke, her voice trembling. Jeremy, stop. He's not lying. The papers, they're real. I saw the bank transfers. The trust documents. You told me he'd never find out. Jeremy's head snapped toward her, eyes blazing. Shut up. Her words froze in the air. Mine didn't. I told you once, Jeremy. Never mistake patience for weakness. Tonight, the world sees who you really are. He lunged at me, fast and reckless. His hands clawed for the folder, for my throat, maybe both. The wrench swung before I even thought. Heavy, whistling through the air, stopping inches from his temple. He froze, breathing hard, eyes locked on me. For the first time, I saw fear break through his arrogance. You won't do it, he sneered. You're too soft. I lowered the wrench slowly. Not in surrender. In control. You're right. I don't need to hit you, Jeremy. You've already hit yourself. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the small recorder. The red light blinked steady. Jeremy's eyes widened. His voice echoed back, tinny but clear, from the device. You think anyone will side with a senile old man over me? I built something, Roy. You're a relic. Caitlin gasped. Jeremy's face went pale. You recorded me, he hissed. Every word, I said. And tomorrow, so will the world. He staggered back, fists clenched, searching for words. Then, without another shout, he stormed out of the cabin. Tires screeched outside as his car tore into the night. The silence afterward was heavier than the storm itself. Caitlin slid to the floor, covering her face with her hands. Dad, you don't understand what he'll do. You've cornered him. He'll come back worse. I sat across from her, voice steady. Good. Let him. Every move he makes now only proves me right. The next morning, I drove into town. The diner's neon buzzed weakly in the gray dawn. Evan, the reporter, waited in a booth, coffee in hand. He looked up as I slid the recorder across the table. What's this? His confession, I said. Play it. He pressed the button. Jeremy's arrogance filled the small diner, bouncing off the chrome walls. A waitress froze mid-step, eyes flicking toward the sound. Evan's jaw tightened. This is gold. Once this goes live, it won't just be gossip. It'll be evidence. Good, I said. But don't print it yet. Not until I say. His brow furrowed. Why hold back? Because a man like Jeremy doesn't just fall. He implodes. And I want the world watching when he does. By afternoon, the storm hit. Caitlin called again, her voice raw. Dad, Jeremy's losing clients. Investors are pulling out. He says it's your fault. He says he'll ruin you before you ruin him. He's already ruined himself, I told her. You don't get it, she cried. He's talking to people, dangerous people. If you don't stop, they'll... Her words cut off, a muffled crash in the background. A shout, then silence. The line went dead. I stood in the cabin, phone still pressed to my ear, heart pounding, not from fear, but from clarity. Jeremy wasn't just desperate. He was reckless. And reckless men make mistakes. I whispered to the empty room, to Ellen's picture still standing on the table. It's almost over. But when I stepped outside, the air was wrong. Heavy. Still. And there, wedged under my truck's wiper blade, another note. This one in thick black ink. Next time, we don't knock. The note under my wiper was still damp from the fog. Next time, we don't knock. I held it between my fingers, paper trembling just slightly in the morning wind. Not fear. Anticipation. They were closing in. And that meant their time was running out. I drove into town slow, deliberate. Parked outside a hardware store. Bought a new padlock, a cheap flip phone, and 3 disposable flash drives. Tools, not weapons. Weapons would give Jeremy excuses. Tools gave me proof. Back at the cabin, I copied everything. The recordings, the bank scans, the letter from Todd, even Caitlin's tearful plea. Each file burned onto a flash drive. Each drive sealed in an envelope. On the front of each, I wrote a single name. Evan. Todd. Detective Reyes. Insurance policies. Because if Jeremy made good on his threat, his fall would be louder than he imagined. By late afternoon, the lake was quiet, too quiet. No birds. No wind. Just the sound of gravel crunching. An engine. I stepped onto the porch as the black SUV pulled in again. This time it wasn't 2 strangers. Jeremy himself climbed out, slamming the door, tie gone, shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. He didn't knock. He stormed up the steps, rage bleeding from every movement. Roll. His voice cracked the silence. You think you can destroy me? You think you can humiliate me in front of everyone I know? I didn't move, didn't flinch. Just let the stillness stretch between us. You've got nothing, he shouted. No one believes you. You're a bitter old man clinging to scraps. I pulled the recorder from my pocket, held it up. The red light blinked steady. Then why are you here screaming on my porch? His jaw worked. His hands balled into fists. For a moment, I thought he'd strike me. Instead, he laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You don't get it, he spat. I have people. Powerful people. They'll bury you. Maybe, I said coldly. But when they dig, they'll find you first. Behind him, another car door opened. Caitlin. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. Jeremy, stop, she begged. You're making it worse. He whirled on her, eyes blazing. Worse? He's destroying everything. Do you want to end up broke, Caitlin? Living in some apartment like his? Her voice cracked. I just want this to end. Something in her tone stopped him for half a second. Enough for me to speak. It ends when the truth is out, I said. And you've already given me all I need. Jeremy spun back toward me. If you press send, I swear. But I cut him off. Calm, deliberate. I already did. His face drained of color. You're bluffing. I slipped the cheap flip phone from my pocket. Showed him the screen. One message sent. To Evan, the reporter. The files were already gone. Jeremy lunged forward, snatched the phone, hurled it against the porch rail. Plastic shattered. He panted like a cornered animal. Too late. Caitlin whispered, almost to herself. Oh my God. Jeremy's rage broke. He stormed back to the SUV, slammed the door, gunned the engine. Gravel spat under the tires as he tore down the road, his taillights vanishing into the dusk. Caitlin stayed frozen on the porch, tears streaking her face. Dad, what did you do? What I had to, I said. My voice was steel. This was never about saving me. It was about saving the truth. That night, the cabin felt smaller. Shadows pressed against the walls. Every creak of the wood sounded like footsteps. I sat at the table, Ellen's photo propped in front of me, the envelopes with the drives stacked neatly at my elbow. My hands traced the rim of a coffee mug gone cold. For the first time in weeks, doubt slid in. What if Jeremy wasn't bluffing about his people? What if Caitlin was collateral in his spiral? But then I remembered the sound of her voice on that phone call, calling me a burden. The laughter. The plotting. My jaw tightened. No, this wasn't doubt. This was clarity. Just after midnight, my burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. A voice I didn't recognize. Low, controlled. Mr. Hayes, you've caused quite a mess. Jeremy's not happy. Neither are we. Good, I said. Silence. Then a chuckle, dark and amused. You're either brave or suicidal. Tomorrow morning, we'll pay you a visit. Let's see how much fight you've really got. The line went dead. I sat there in the silence, staring at Ellen's picture. Her eyes seemed sharper in the lamplight, as if asking me if I was ready. I whispered back, "Yes, tomorrow it ends." And as the lake wind howled outside, I slid the last envelope into my jacket pocket, the one marked for the police. Because when morning came, Jeremy wouldn't just face me. He'd face the world. Morning broke sharp and cold. Mist rolled across the lake like smoke from a slow fire. I sat on the porch steps of the cabin, jacket zipped, wrench resting across my knees. Ellen's photo was in my pocket, close to my chest. The crunch of tires came exactly when I expected. 8:12 a.m. The black SUV again, but this time 2 cars followed behind. Jeremy hadn't come alone. The first door slammed, then another. Jeremy stepped out, face pale and strained, tie knotted crooked, rage pouring off him in waves. Behind him were 2 men, slick hair, black coats, hands buried in pockets heavy with intent. "Roll!" Jeremy's voice cracked through the mist. "This ends today." I stood slowly, calm as a stone. "You're right about that." He marched up the drive, chest puffed, trying to look like the man he pretended to be in boardrooms. But his eyes gave him away, wild, desperate, cornered. "You've embarrassed me, ruined me. Investors are gone. Clients are gone. My name, trash because of you." "No," I said flatly. "Because of you. You opened your mouth. You wrote the lies. You treated me like dirt. I just lit the lamp so everyone could see it." He sneered. "You're bluffing. No one cares about your little folder." I reached into my pocket, pulled out the last envelope, the one marked for the police. Held it up between 2 fingers. "This one isn't little, and it's already in the right hands." For a moment, just a flicker, fear crossed his face. Then he snapped, rage taking over. "Grab him." The 2 men moved forward. Heavy boots on gravel. I didn't flinch, because I didn't need to. That's when sirens split the morning. 3 cruisers came barreling down the road, lights flashing, red and blue cutting through the fog. Tires skidded, doors flew open, voices barked commands. "Police. Hands where we can see them." The men froze, hands halfway to their coats. Jeremy spun, eyes wide, mouth opening like he might explain it away, like he'd explained away everything in his life. But no excuse came. Not this time. Detective Reyes stepped forward, badge glinting. "Jeremy Cole, you're under arrest for attempted fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to intimidate a witness." The words hung in the air like thunder. Jeremy's face drained of all color. "This is insane. He's lying. He's crazy." Reyes held up the recorder I'd given him. Jeremy's own voice spilled out, arrogant and damning. "You think anyone will side with a senile old man over me? I built something, Roy. You're a relic." Every word echoed back across the lake. Caitlin had stepped out of the SUV by now. She stood frozen, tears streaking down her cheeks, watching the last of Jeremy's empire collapse on the gravel at his feet. They cuffed him. He fought, shouted, but his voice cracked. The men who came with him went silent, hands raised, their courage gone in the red-blue light. As Jeremy was shoved into the cruiser, he caught my eye one last time. Pure hatred. No more masks. No more boardroom charm. Just the small, broken man he'd always been. "You'll pay for this," he hissed through the open window. I stepped closer, leaned down, and said quietly so only he could hear, "I already did, and the debt's cleared." The door slammed, muffling his rage. The siren wailed, carrying him away. The lake was silent again. Just wind in the pines, water lapping against the dock. Caitlin stood 10 feet from me, shoulders shaking. "Dad, I didn't know it would go this far." I looked at her, the daughter I'd once carried on my shoulders, the girl who used to run down the hall screaming, "Daddy's home." "And now this." "You knew enough?" I said. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You call me a burden. You laughed about selling my life out from under me. You chose him. Remember that when the dust settles." Her lips trembled. She wanted forgiveness. But forgiveness wasn't mine to give anymore. I turned away, walked back up the porch, sat in the chair that creaked under my weight. The lake stretched wide before me, endless, quiet. I pulled Ellen's photo from my pocket, set it on the armrest. Her smile caught the morning light. For the first time in weeks, I breathed easy. Because it was finished. Because justice wasn't in courtrooms or contracts. It was here, in the silence after the storm. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and whispered the last words Jeremy would never forget, even in his cell. The relic just buried you.